What comes to mind when you hear Belarus? For most people, it's flashes of Soviet-style blocks, maybe Minsk, or vague headlines about politics. But here's the twist. Beneath that rigid image lies a country full of surprises. Women so striking they've become legendary, wild forests that look untouched by time, and a lifestyle that mixes old-world traditions with new-age ambitions. Travelers looking for safety, affordability, and authentic experiences are beginning to pay attention. Expats quietly thrive here, nature lovers get lost in the green, and culture seekers find soul in the silence. Ready to see Belarus differently? Let's begin. Number 12. The beauty standard and dating culture. Why is Belarus always whispered about as the land of unbelievably beautiful women? It's not just hype. International surveys and even modeling agencies point out that Belarus consistently produces women with striking features, natural elegance, and a traditional sense of femininity that stands out in today's world. But here's the real shocker. While in many countries dating has become rushed and transactional, Belarusian culture still values slower, more intentional courtship. Women here often look for stability, sincerity, and commitment, things travelers might not expect if they're coming in with Western dating mindsets. And yes, foreigners do get attention, especially in bigger cities like Minsk or Brest, but respect and effort matter more than flashy money or shallow charm. Speaking of money, dating in Belarus is surprisingly affordable compared to Western Europe. A nice dinner date at a stylish restaurant in Minsk might cost you the equivalent of $20 to $30, cocktails included. Add cinema tickets or a stroll through the city's endless parks, and you've still spent less than a single night out in London or New York. But don't be fooled. While Belarusian women appreciate thoughtful gestures, they can spot arrogance or tourist mentality from miles away. For travelers and expats alike, the dating culture here offers something rare: authenticity. Relationships are taken seriously, family values remain strong, and finding someone who values loyalty is much more common. That mix of beauty and depth is what keeps Belarus unforgettable in the hearts of those who experience it. Number 11. Nature escapes and national parks. Could you imagine walking through the last stretch of Europe's primeval forest, where bison still roam free as they did thousands of years ago? Welcome to Belovezhskaya Pushcha, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of Belarus's crown jewels. This isn't some fenced-off reserve, it's raw wilderness where you can hike, cycle, or even spot lynxes if you're lucky. And here's the catch. Entry costs just a few dollars, making it one of the cheapest world-class nature experiences you'll ever have. Belarus is nicknamed the Land of Lakes, with over 10,000 shimmering bodies of water scattered across its countryside. Lake Narak, the largest, is so pristine it feels like stepping into a natural spa, complete with affordable resorts and wellness retreats. A weekend getaway here? You're looking at under $50 for cozy lodging and local meals, which is almost unthinkable in Western Europe. Travelers who crave something different can kayak down the Pripyat River, explore endless pine forests, or rent a bike to wander through sleepy villages. The best part? Unlike the crowded Alps or tourist-packed Mediterranean coasts, Belarus's nature is still relatively untouched. You get space, quiet, and authenticity without paying a fortune. Even expats say the country's natural escapes are what keep them grounded. After all, when you can finish work in Minsk and be surrounded by lakes or forests within an hour, life suddenly feels richer. In Belarus, nature isn't a backdrop. It's part of everyday living, waiting for you to explore. Before we dive deeper, drop a comment below with your thoughts. Then don't forget to subscribe and like this video before we move on. Number 10. Expat life and cost of living. So what's it really like for foreigners who decide to stay longer than a week in Belarus? Here's the part most people don't realize. Expat life here can be surprisingly comfortable without draining your wallet. A fully furnished one-bedroom apartment in the capital, Minsk, often rents for just $300 to $500 a month, depending on location. Compare that with Western Europe or even Poland, and you're suddenly saving thousands every year. Groceries are also easy on the budget. A basket of basics, bread, eggs, fresh produce, and even meat, rarely goes past $30 for the week. Eating out? You can sit down at a good local restaurant, enjoy a hearty Belarusian meal with drinks, and still walk away under $20. Even monthly transportation passes cost less than $15. For digital nomads, students, or retirees, this cost efficiency is a game changer. But it's not only about money. Expats often mention how safe the country feels. Walking late at night, hopping into public transport, or exploring rural villages, safety levels are much higher here than in many parts of Europe. Of course, cultural adjustment takes time. English isn't widely spoken outside Minsk, so learning a few Russian or Belarusian phrases goes a long way. For travelers considering a move, Belarus offers a curious mix: low costs, stable routines, and plenty of quiet. It's not flashy, but for those who value authenticity, nature, and a slower lifestyle, expat life here can feel surprisingly rewarding. Number 9. Culture and traditions. Want to know the heartbeat of Belarus beyond its cities and landscapes? It's in the traditions that locals still carry proudly. Festivals here aren't staged for tourists. They're lived, felt, and passed down through generations. Kupala Night, for instance, is a midsummer celebration filled with bonfires, flower crowns, and folk songs that can make you feel like you've stepped into a Slavic fairy tale. Locals jump over fires for luck, search for mythical fern flowers, and dance until sunrise. Music and dance remain deeply tied to Belarusian identity. Folk instruments like the cymbali, a hammered dulcimer, bring gatherings to life, while embroidered clothing, vyshyvanka, still appears at national holidays. These aren't costumes, but living symbols of pride, stitched with ancient patterns that carry meaning for each region. And here's where things get fascinating for travelers. Despite modern life in Minsk with its cafes and shopping malls, step just a few kilometers into the countryside and you'll find villages where time slows down. Locals still bake bread in wood-fired ovens, craft pottery by hand, and pass down stories as if the internet never happened. Money-wise, joining these traditions doesn't cost much. Entry to folk festivals often ranges between $5 and $10, and buying handmade crafts or embroidered clothing directly from artisans is both affordable and authentic. Think $30 to $50 for something that would be triple the price in Western boutiques. For anyone visiting, Belarusian culture isn't a museum piece. It's alive, breathing, and ready to pull you in with warmth you never expected. Number 8. Minsk, the surprising capital. What if I told you Minsk might be the most underrated capital city in Europe? Forget the stereotypes of gray Soviet blocks and nothing to do. Minsk has quietly reinvented itself. Wide boulevards lined with cafes, buzzing nightlife, quirky art districts, and spotless streets make it feel both modern and strangely peaceful. The city is massive but not chaotic, with leafy parks that make you forget you're in a capital at all. Here's where travelers perk up. Minsk is shockingly affordable. A stylish Airbnb or central apartment can be rented for $30 to $60 a night, and if you're staying longer, monthly rents average $300 to $500 for a decent one-bedroom. Food is another pleasant surprise. Trendy restaurants serving both Belarusian and international cuisine will rarely cost you more than $20 per person, drinks included. Coffee culture is booming too. You'll pay less than $3 for a quality flat white in hip spots that feel like they could be in Berlin. Minsk's nightlife is a whole story of its own. Clubs, jazz bars, and underground music scenes run until sunrise, with entry fees often under $10. And while most capitals come with a reputation for danger, Minsk stays calm and secure, letting you wander late without second thoughts. The best part? Minsk doesn't drown you in tourists. You get the big city vibe without the tourist traps or inflated prices. For curious travelers, Minsk isn't just surprising. It's a gem waiting to be noticed. Number 7. Safety and cleanliness. Here's a fact that shocks many first-time visitors. Belarus is one of the safest countries in Europe. Walk around Minsk at midnight, hop into public transport alone, or wander through small villages, and chances are you'll feel safer than in cities you thought were secure. Crime rates are remarkably low, and even petty theft is rare. For travelers who worry about safety abroad, Belarus offers a peace of mind you don't usually get. And then there's cleanliness. Streets in Belarus aren't just tidy, they sparkle. Minsk especially is famous for being so spotless that some tourists joke you could eat off the sidewalks. Public transport stations are clean, parks are well kept, and litter is practically non-existent. This isn't just surface level, it's part of the culture, where public spaces are treated with respect. Let's talk numbers. Public transport is not only reliable but dirt cheap. A single metro ride in Minsk costs less than 50 cents, and a monthly unlimited pass sits around $15. Add the safety factor, and you've got one of the smoothest, most stress-free transport systems in Europe. Taxis and ride-hailing apps are also affordable, averaging $2 to $4 for short trips. For expats and long-term travelers, this safety and cleanliness combo changes daily life. Parents don't stress about kids walking to school. Nights out feel worry-free, and even solo travelers can explore without the constant watch your back feeling. In a world where many cities battle crime and chaos, Belarus quietly keeps its streets safe, clean, and calm. Number 6. Food and drinks. Ready to taste Belarus beyond the cliches? Let's start with the national obsession. Draniki, crispy potato pancakes served with sour cream. They're simple, yes, but locals swear by them as the ultimate comfort food. Then there's machanka, a hearty pork stew usually eaten with thick pancakes, and borscht, that iconic beetroot soup, here made with its own Belarusian twist. What makes it fascinating is how strongly food ties into tradition. Meals are rich, filling, and meant to be shared. But here's the real deal for travelers. Food in Belarus is incredibly cheap for the quality you get. A full-course Belarusian dinner in a good restaurant, complete with drinks, will cost you under $20. Want something more upscale? Even top-tier fine dining in Minsk often stays below $50 per person, which in Paris or London wouldn't even cover appetizers. Street food is another highlight. You can grab fresh pastries, local kebabs, or potato pies for just a couple of dollars. And drinks? Beer culture here is alive and affordable, with a pint costing less than $2 in most pubs. Kvass, a fermented rye drink, is a refreshing local favorite, while vodka still holds a cultural spot at celebrations. Coffee culture is also exploding. Stylish cafes in Minsk serve flat whites and lattes at prices under $3. For foodies and budget-savvy travelers, Belarus delivers a jackpot. Hearty, authentic meals that don't break the bank, paired with a growing modern cafe and bar scene you'd never expect. Before we see the last parts, leave us a comment, hit that subscribe button, and give this video a like before we continue the journey. Number 5. Festivals and celebrations. Want to experience Belarus in full color? Then plan your trip around its festivals, because that's when the country shows its true soul. The most enchanting is Kupala Night, a midsummer celebration filled with bonfires, music, and flower wreaths floating down rivers. Imagine locals jumping over flames for luck, couples holding hands under the midnight sky, and folk songs echoing until dawn. It feels straight out of a Slavic fairy tale. Another unmissable event is Dojinki, the harvest festival. Think parades, folk dances, and entire towns dressed in embroidered clothing, celebrating the end of the farming season with feasts and music. Independence Day, on the other hand, is a more modern affair, complete with military parades, fireworks, and citywide performances in Minsk. Here's the kicker. Unlike many European festivals that drain your wallet, Belarus keeps things budget-friendly. Entry to most folk festivals costs only a few dollars, and food stalls sell hearty local dishes for pocket change. Even concerts and shows during major celebrations often stay under $10, making it possible to dive deep into the atmosphere without spending a fortune. For travelers, these festivals are more than entertainment. They're a cultural crash course. You'll see how traditions survive in modern times, how communities come together, and how Belarus still honors its roots while embracing change. From fire-lit midsummer nights to harvest parades full of music and dancing, celebrations here feel authentic, warm, and open to anyone willing to join in. Number 4. Hospitality and local friendliness. Here's a surprise most travelers don't expect. Belarusians may seem reserved at first, but once you break the ice, their hospitality runs deep. In fact, the phrase, "the guest is sacred," is more than just a saying here. Get invited into a Belarusian home, and you'll be met with a table overflowing with food, endless toasts, and a host determined to make you feel like family. It's not unusual for strangers to offer directions, share their umbrella during a storm, or even walk you halfway across town just to be sure you don't get lost. And it doesn't cost a fortune to experience this warmth. Staying in a village guest house or renting a family-run homestay often costs $20 to $30 a night, but what you get is priceless. Authentic interaction, home-cooked meals, and stories that no guidebook could teach you. Even in cities, chatting with locals at a cafe can turn into spontaneous sightseeing tours where they insist on showing you the real Minsk. Money might open doors in many countries, but in Belarus, sincerity counts for more. Locals genuinely value respect and curiosity about their culture. Treat people kindly, and you'll often be rewarded with small acts of kindness that make your trip unforgettable. For travelers tired of the tourist bubble, Belarus offers something rare: authentic human connection. It's not about staged smiles, but about genuine warmth, waiting to be discovered the moment you let your guard down and return that first smile. Number 3. Dating versus long-term relationships. So what happens when dating in Belarus turns into something more serious? Here's where things get interesting. Dating culture, as we saw, is already intentional, but when it comes to long-term relationships, Belarusian values stand out even more. Family isn't just important, it's central. Many women and men alike view relationships not as casual flings, but as stepping stones toward marriage and children. That's why loyalty, trust, and stability carry far more weight than flashy gifts or temporary charm. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't mean relationships are outdated or old-fashioned. Instead, they balance modern independence with strong family traditions. For example, Belarusian women are highly educated, literacy rates are over 99%, and many work professional jobs, but they often still expect men to show reliability and initiative. The blend of beauty, ambition, and loyalty makes long-term connections here feel different than in many parts of the world. From a practical perspective, couples also benefit from Belarus's affordability. Building a home or starting a family costs significantly less than in Western Europe. A couple renting a one-bedroom apartment in Minsk might spend $400 to $500 a month, while groceries for two rarely exceed $200. Even weddings, which in Western countries can spiral into tens of thousands, can be celebrated beautifully here for a fraction of that price. For travelers who find love in Belarus, the journey often extends beyond adventure. Relationships here aren't about surface-level excitement. They're about building something lasting, rooted in both tradition and modern life. Number 2. Work and business opportunities. Can Belarus really be a land of opportunity for outsiders? The short answer, yes, but in ways you might not expect. The country has quietly built a reputation for tech, thanks to the high-tech park in Minsk, sometimes called the Silicon Valley of Eastern Europe. This special economic zone offers huge tax incentives for IT companies, and it's no accident that apps like Viber and World of Tanks were born here. For digital nomads, freelancers, or entrepreneurs in tech, Belarus is surprisingly attractive, especially when you compare costs. Renting an office in Minsk can cost less than $300 a month, and hiring local talent is affordable without compromising on skills. Outside tech, agriculture, and small-scale businesses thrive. Rural tourism is growing, with locals turning family houses into guest lodges or farmstay experiences. Starting something similar as a foreigner isn't impossible, though navigating bureaucracy requires patience. Money matters a lot here, and Belarus stretches it further than you'd imagine. For expats working remotely, the cost of living is so low that modest salaries feel like luxury. A comfortable monthly budget for one person, rent, food, transport, and leisure, sits around $800 to $1,000. Compare that with the several thousand it takes to live in Western capitals, and you see why many choose to settle here. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. Language barriers and visa rules can be tricky, and traditional corporate jobs for foreigners are limited. But if you're creative, adaptable, and looking for affordable business opportunities or a base to build your remote career, Belarus might just be the unconventional choice that pays off big. Number 1. Hidden villages and rural charm. Ever wondered what life looks like beyond Minsk's wide boulevards and modern cafes? The answer lies in Belarus's hidden villages, where time seems to move slower and traditions still shape daily living. Travelers who leave the capital often stumble upon wooden houses with brightly painted shutters, villagers riding in horse-drawn carts, and gardens bursting with fresh vegetables. It's a lifestyle rooted in self-sufficiency, where neighbors exchange honey for potatoes and bake bread in wood-fired ovens. For visitors, the charm is irresistible. Guest houses in rural areas cost as little as $15 to $20 per night, and the hospitality is priceless. Imagine waking up to homemade jam, fresh milk from the cow, and hosts eager to share folk stories that stretch back centuries. These aren't polished tourist traps. They're authentic slices of Belarusian life. Money stretches shockingly far in the countryside. A full day of exploring villages, enjoying homemade meals, and even hiring a local guide might cost less than $50 in total. Compare that with touristy heritage villages elsewhere in Europe where prices triple, and Belarus feels like the ultimate hidden bargain. But it's not just about cost. The countryside offers experiences you won't forget. Joining locals for harvest festivals, watching traditional crafts like pottery or weaving, or even trying your hand at making your own bread in an outdoor oven. For expats, weekends in these villages offer a perfect escape from city routines, a chance to reconnect with nature and simplicity. In a world rushing forward, Belarus's rural heart still beats steady, inviting travelers to slow down, breathe, and experience life the way it was meant to be. Warm, simple, and real. Belarus isn't just another dot on the map. It's a place of beauty, tradition, and surprises at every corner. If this journey opened your eyes to what life here is really like, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, like, and share this video so more travelers discover Belarus's hidden magic.